Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm gonna teach you guys how to use gradient maps, or how I use gradient maps, and some tips and some rambling, because this isn't scripted, and I haven't slept in 24 hours. So, what I like to do is I like to start with a flat black and white image. You don't have to do this, it's just a personal preference. I like to save, if I don't like to merge my layers. It stresses me out. So I like to export it as a PNG and then import it back into the same canvas and use that as my base. I'll get into why I like to do it that way later, but to me it's just the easiest way to kind of get everything together. Why I like to put it in one image is because you can easily adjust the entire values of the piece without doing it layer by layer. I know you can probably do this in Photoshop with all of the layers without changing them, but this is like a really nice way you can fix any value problems and add more contrast to your piece before you start coloring it. So it just makes it a lot easier, especially on Procreate. It makes it a lot easier to just have it as one flat image before you go in and do all the colors. You can do it however you want, but this is the best way in my opinion. Now, another thing is when you add the color map, if you don't set the layer mode to color, the values are gonna get fucked up. So what you want to do, this is like the most important thing that got me to start using gradient maps more, because I didn't understand how gradient maps worked, is you want to duplicate the black and white image, use a gradient map on it, and set the layer mode to color. When it's set to color, it only changes the color values without changing the brightness and the darkness of the image. This way you can add a color map without affecting and making your values all crazy. When it comes to actually picking the colors for your color map, you're just gonna have to try a lot of different things. It comes with practice. Honestly, learning color theory or just basic color combinations helps a lot. Rule of threes, most of all. I like to choose my shadows so that I go in one direction on the color wheel, and then towards the light and the highlights I go towards the opposite direction. For example, here my shadows are darker blue while my highlights are brighter. What I like to do is I like to make one base gradient that goes over the entire image that I can then start climbing over. And here, as you can see, an example of what the gradient map looks like if it wasn't set to color. That's why it's important to always set your gradient map layers to color. Again, I like to make a gradient at first because it helps me figure out the vibe and the general colors of the image that I want to have, and it helps me bring everything together in a nicer way. If you don't feel comfortable with knowing how to make color combinations work together well, I recommend you make a duplicate of the base gradient that you're using and setting it to soft light or hard light or overlay or something like that, and then coloring everything under that layer so it kind of brings everything cohesively together. Now, when it comes to actually selecting the areas you want to color map, I like to just use a brush and paint over the area that I'm going to gradient map. If you're using something like Clip Studio Paint or something that has a smarter selection tool, for example, a better selection mask, use that. But Procreate's lasso tool is really bad, so I decided that I'll just use a brush instead. So what I do is I draw over everything I want to use, I select it, invert it, and then erase the selection from a duplicated image of the black and white, and then I can use a gradient map on the area that I've erased from the black and white image. Does that make sense? And here I am selecting the black colors for the face. When it comes to selecting colors, you're gonna have to keep in mind the flat colors that you're going for, but you also want to keep in mind the color of the shadows. It is a little tricky, but honestly, you can get away with so much bullshitting, because once you have the values in place, it doesn't really matter what colors you use, because it's gonna look coherent if the values are correct. So now I'm just repeating the same steps for every single area. So I'm doing the green part of the hair, and then I'm doing the purple part of the hair. With the same technique, you select your painted over mask that you want to use, and then you select that from the black and white image. You delete everything else but the selection, and then you can use a gradient map on top of that. Here I'm doing a manual adjustment of some add because I wanted to add some more glow. You can do that. Use fine-tuning. Play around with random layer modes, because layer modes are the best ever. I used to use layer modes to shade. I used multiply, and then I used add for the highlights, and that's a lot of artists agree that it's kind of primitive. It works well with certain art styles, but when you get into digital painting, it's better to use the colors that you want to use from the get-go. However, I was there, and then I went to no blending modes, I hate blending modes, and now I'm back to I love blending modes. Playing around with random blending modes, and experimenting, especially with things like difference and exclusion, add so much cool shit to your art. It's such a cheap and easy way to explore random ways to make your art look cooler. Honestly, try to keep making art fun, because if you're gonna not use things that make life easier, like use tools, use all the tools you can, trace 3D models, trace your reference photos, don't trace other people's art without permission, okay? Don't go tracing other people's art without permission and posting it as your own. That's not nice. However, if you have a stock photo and you don't know how to draw that arm, fucking trace it. It's 2026. There is AI that's gonna take over like our jobs and shit, keep making art and keep making it fun. This is why I think you should experiment. Use random, subtract, exclusion, difference. I'm using random ass blending modes. I don't even know what they do. You don't need to know what things does if it looks nice, I guess, just use random shit. Then once I'm done with all of the flat colors and all of the adjustments, I like to go in and do a few last touches of rendering, in which, in my case, rendering means going over the entire piece and cleaning up any inconsistencies or imperfections that piss me off. So sketch lines that are visible, or lines that are jagged or not clear enough to my eye, I will go fix them manually in post. For example, here I'm just cleaning up the shape of the eye a little bit. It's hard to explain because it comes from the balls. It just happens. It's just like, okay, that thing bothers me, I'm gonna fix it. But this is a great part to now add some tiny little details, like if there is an extra pop of color that you would have liked to add that couldn't be added because of the value being wrong, add that now. Add all the extra things you want, and remember to check the values while you're doing this, because if you're using things like multiply or add, it's going to change the values again. And here it's an example of me playing around with different blending modes. It's just putting a random color and then seeing what it looks like. I decided to go and add, don't worry about that, I decided to go and add some saturation because I thought it looked kind of dull. And then I wanted it to have more color because it looked really blue, so I just put on a random color map and then put on a random blending mode and then erase a part of it so it wasn't too red. And that's just an example of what you can do. Just like do random shit and erase half of it. Just use the ones that you think look nice, the parts that you like, and do that, Life's too short to know what you're doing. I hope this tutorial made any sense. I'm very not sure. Here's the whole time lapse of the thing. I don't know if this made any sense. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't slept in like 24 hours. I just came back from a 13-hour flight from Thailand. And I did a voiceover for this while I was drawing that I lost because the music that I had in the background was too loud, so you couldn't really hear me. So now I had to do this again, and I hope that my rambling made any sense. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I feel like such a YouTuber saying that. Leave your question in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe. I don't know, I don't post on YouTube, man. I don't post here, okay? Thanks. A few people wanted to see how I color with gradient maps, and I couldn't send a video this long. via Discord, so I just put it on YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys. Have fun drawing. Thumbs up.